everyone who's gathered here. About to start the most awaited BSHIP center stage. And when great minds come together, a lot of great ideas also come out and a lot of learning is also exchanged. Let's witness what we have to take away, what we have to learn and what we have to know and what the Cadabam group of hospitals have more coming to give back to the society. Thank you so much, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sandesh.
Good evening.
Very nice to have you here. A small introduction about yourself.
Sandesh Cadabams. The person who's behind everything that we have done at Cadabams and why I exist is my dad, and my dad's here as well. One of those.
After Sandesh came in, it was a 6x growth. Is that correct?
I don't know 6x or yeah, but you have to put a number. We have grown. I think
they have greater visions, correct? So when the vision of a visionary like Ramesh sir, who was the founder of Cadabams, 1992 when the Cadabams was established, you guys started on a very small team, and today you have grown to more than $400 consultants.
Yeah.
And close to around 1 lakh of happy customers.
Yeah. I mean,
more than 1 lakh.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're talking about 1.5 lakh, and you're looking at an overseas abroad expansion, like you're going into markets,
Yeah.
and you're also trying to expand a lot of physiotherapy centers in across Hyderabad. So what is that one triggering force which actually triggered that your international market has a huge vacuum in this particular space?
Cool. Actually, something out of my experience. I think it's always about thresholds. It's sometimes that we chase the tens. What is it that I can do at a consistency in tens, 50s, and then you want to chase your hundreds. Then, when people did tell that there is something called consistency, there is something called momentum in business. You got to read the signs as they come along. It's important to read your reports appropriately. It did sound largely funny. I thought somebody used to pick it off of your management books and say so. But out of experience, I will tell you that does exist, right? Today, we have close to about 500 to 700 new patients coming into our system month on month across the group end, right? So these and their number of consultations can just magnifold. The kind of service that we are in, nobody comes to us for one-off consultations, one-off service. Then you.
So when we're talking about Sandesh, I'll give you guys a small intake about how Sandesh from a large venture to what we call as you are a member of the board of mental reviews.
Karnataka,
correct.
Yeah.
So how was that changed? So when he was in his younger days, there was a lot of mischievous Sandesh who was sitting. Now also he is. But only thing is, we have stepped across and we have come. But when we're talking about the mischievous Sandesh, when his mom went to the school and she asked, the teacher, math teacher, how is Sandesh doing? She told it's absolutely fine and they scored 100 on 100. His mom was like, oh, finally Sandesh is somewhere, settling somewhere. The next teacher was a Hindi teacher.
I know it's coming.
Alright? Then that is when, his mom turned back and saw, really, is this the same Sandesh? He got 100 and yet he's getting a lot of bright reviews. So, how was your schooling as such? Because I understand you were from the large venture and today, we are still on the large venture when we sit like this. But still, when we talk up your business seriously, and you see a whole line of new emerging ideas, thought processes, a huge level of expansion. So how do you define yourself in this particular?
I mean, it would. I didn't know you were connected to mom, but yeah.
Your dad,
Here is where it is, right? It would not be right to say that I was the brightest of the two in school. My parents knew it very evidently. They're like, you just scrape through and don't bring trouble home, so it's okay. Unfortunately, my younger brother was was more so focused, and of course, he did fare a lot better in education there. In school, I did enjoy because of the mix of probably the subject
So when all these things are happening on one track, and how do you manage, because you have a lot more centers coming up and you have a huge team on the board which is sitting across, and you have people where you're not only answerable but also sometimes the risk factors what comes into picture. How do you handle that?
It's a two-edged. It's certainly a two-edged sword. But then we're at a point where growth kind of is the only way to ensure that we stay sturdy, right? So I kind of distribute my time when I'm meeting my operations teams, when I'm meeting people who are responsible for the centers. We should switch off and not be looking at something else. Asking the right questions, being with the team for the right purpose that they're part of works. Like in the senior management, as to if they want to share a feedback, they have an escalation, they have a red flag, we're available for everything. Right? But as you go downwards, we're at a stage where we're saying let's do backward integration with the number of nurses, counselors, and physiotherapists we're hiring. We're better off having colleges all over. Because otherwise my team is always going to campus.
So can we fix this? College is coming up now.
No. I would not want to promote it too much and just hire everybody with it.
Because we have students ready here. If you're okay with that, then we are okay with that.
But I don't know. Right now, I'm not committed to anything new. I would just say just do what's there on the plate. Yeah. So,
let me not hold you back again. So just one last suggestion to all the business owners who are here, because everyone have challenges. Everyone has to take risk on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So if you have to give that one suggestion which will really penetrate into their hearts and make sure the business from tomorrow, as you told, a no is a very good thing, because a lot of business owners today think if we lose this deal, there's nothing left.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you talk about a no from your mouth, that really shows your confidence on getting the next one, which is going to be a bigger one.
Yeah.
So if you have to put across to all the business owners in terms of one suggestion, what would that be?
I don't know. I mean, I more than a suggestion, I'll put this out as what has been an area that has worked very well for me. That is, get to the bottom of anything that you want to do. Stay committed. Try and understand in detail. That really helps. And from there, I think your opportunities kind of the horizon of opportunities kind of expand. That has worked, because honestly, I did not know too much about mental health. Even post my graduation as well and post my masters, I've seen it in close quarters. Why would I know the sub-specializations? What would I do with it? There is that spark in that one thing that you're already doing, right? In the thing that you're already doing, if you get to the bottom of those things, right, and then you're able to build through. So that I think is extremely key. And who knows, if you don't end up creating a new revenue opportunity, you might create an opportunity to save your cost. So money saved is also money earned, and then you have your own ways. Some people in trade and trading opportunities might have their own bet. That's something that I completely don't understand. I understand services and everything services, and that's a space. For me as an organization, why should I have been in tech? I got into tech because that became a requirement. I'm getting into the bottom of the problem. Where do you bring accountability? And I'm not as active as my dad and the others, who always had every book and then passed everything through them, right? So I would want something more simpler. So then what do? So that's where you build that up. That to me is
very well narrated, Sandesh. Thank you so much. We have questions for Sandesh if anyone has. Any questions for Sandesh?
Rajkumar. So mostly we see two kind of entrepreneurs. So if you want to grow in our businesses, some entrepreneurs choose to have multiple businesses, and few entrepreneurs go deep into their business what they do. Which one do you think is better?
I would say master one of your business to the core before you jump into the other business verticals. For the longest time, I have always said no to everything that is not mental health. Only when I was confident that there are enough systems, processes in place, and the business does not need me, right? but I would still have the liberty to explore something new is when I jumped in, okay, and I explored something new. Otherwise, we were not. I was not. I don't think I would have been ready for it. You don't want to go back home, go back to your workplace and feel that just because I'm doing something new, this is getting compromised. That's the last thing I would want to do. For me, that was the criteria. But mastering one space, being comfortable with it, reaching stability is criteria.
So what I have heard is that few mentors saying that if you are into one single business and if you keep going deep into that, suddenly if something goes wrong and that business is in a state, then you don't have any other backup or any other opportunity to be stabilized. So for that reason, most of the entrepreneurs, they try to be in multiple businesses so that if something goes on in one business, they can sustain another business.
Absolutely right, sir. I mean, I can't disagree. Though I can talk about being open for innovation, understanding what comes our way. I have heard this argument from a lot of my friends and in people in the industry who are into products where it sometimes becomes a challenge. But I can't disagree. But I don't know how could one really prioritize two things and say I'm trying to do two things at the same time. Maybe that's not my personality mix or the type that I am in. It's always, if you're talking about hedging our risk and wanting to be safe, you might as well have
Congratulations to you, Sandesh, for the achievement. And definitely we wish you to see your inspiration to become true on your own business, like becoming a unicorn.
I still consider work in progress, but yeah.
Yeah. My question is like, so you have told about like stretching in finances, okay, which is a major requirement in any of the
He
business.
pushed me to say that.
No, we want to know and learn about that actually.
Yeah.
So, for a company, how can we think about funding or funding against stake dilution, and how much important is the branding, and what were the initial stages you have? During the initial stage, what were the problems you have faced for these type of things like funding and diluting the company, or staying with the company and getting different type of funding? Just I want to understand about this.
Brilliant question. Thanks, you brought it up. That's one part that I didn't share in the conversation here, probably. I have explored that as well, right? So I don't think I would have spared anything, but I'll tell you my understanding about what funding was. For the longest time, I thought private equity and VC fund was the least cost of capital, but it's the other way around. The cost of capital at which the private equity and the venture capital funds come is extremely high. Pitching a business case, being able to sell the business proposition, going in for funding is not too hard or too difficult. For me, I'll tell you with my own personal experience, you name the top 9 funds of India are today tracking us. I think about 3 of them have come uninvited for a term sheet to us. Okay, but the only reason why we stepped back has been the fact that there are something called your tag-alongs, your other areas where today you may have access to excess capital. Are you rightly placed to use that excess capital?
Thank you for such an inspiring speech. That your journey is really inspiring.
Now it's a great word of confidence.
Probably this has become an aspiration to us that we one day would reach that stage. So I have a question. Probably this might be a pitch deck for your father. So how your father could convince you to come and take up the family business?
I think no, he didn't convince me. I had to convince that I can come back. I think it was the other way around. So of course I was trying to explore and those aspects, but yeah, it was that time of the year where it was that initial startup buzz also that was happening. I don't know if many of you 2009-10, when we kind of graduated, there was this wave in the West that started talking about startup funding. It started talking about idea. Okay.
That is when the decision also had actually come down.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
was an advisory piece.
So that was a space. So it was a little tempting to explore something else, but then no, I think I kind of got lost.
Dinesh, good evening. One thing I would want to make a comment and then ask you a question. I agree with everything with one statement which you said. You made a statement, Cadabams is a very small entity or a small organization. I don't want to accept on that. So we are all looking towards you. And as you know, as you very closely work in tandem with the government of India or government of Maldives, how did you build that relationship with the government in establishing or working towards or working with the government in terms of solving the mental health?
Right. So I think for this as well, Mr. Sadiq, it goes back to my inquisitiveness and curiosity. If somebody says that we have an opportunity to connect, I go there. Okay. So that's something that I do, and that's how all of these have originated. I at the moment don't work very closely with Government of India. I'm there only in a few forums, which is the India-UK Health Mission, and I'm part of just on the national disaster. But I work very closely with the state government right now because I'm the member of the Mental Health Review Board of Karnataka. So this happened because of those one or two opportunities that you get with the IAS officials, work from one IAS official to the other, and if you can have a value-based conversation, they know that you're not there for any vested interest, or they know what you're creating. Have discussions around those. I think that's really what it is. But I can go on about it. But the answer is wherever I got an opportunity, I went there.
Face a lot of problems with the workers. So you handle a lot of doctors who are really, much MDs and all those people. How do you really handle them? Because they shift over very fast. And I've seen many people shifting over the hospitals, seeing the doctors. So how do you face this challenge? How do you address it?
I think we covered only the doctors and the qualified professionals. I think we found a hack there because we've been able to find ways, because we've been growing consistently, they've been also sticking around and biased to us. No doubt about that. But with the workforce and the bottom of our, let's say, the chunk of our workforce that comes, we also face the same challenges. It's only been how you can make others respect them. It's most often not because of us that they're leaving. It's because of their managers, their other colleagues, their other departments not respecting them, at least in services, right? That's where it's their burnout or their turmoil that they kind of face. So we try to keep fixing those gaps. On a factory workflow and the other aspects, I really don't know because I don't come with that experience. But in the services, the burnouts and the trigger points are largely because somebody else told me to do this. He saw me as a subordinate. I'm not a subordinate. I report to somebody else. So that's the balance that we try to fix. I was telling somebody when we were waiting out over a coffee, I was telling them that I never knew training was so important. Okay. And
Thank you so much for this time that you gave us. My question is, did you get into business with the vision and mission clear in your mind, or did that happen through the process? Is it necessary? If your answer is yes, is it necessary that anybody has to have this clear before they want to expand their business or even step into business?
Look, I honestly didn't have too much. I didn't even understand vision before I got it. It's something that I built over with time, to be honest with you. At least in my case, what keeps me on that drive is wanting to grow, wanting to explore something new, and I suddenly feel obligated that I have people with me. If I grow, only when they are going to get an opportunity. That's something that keeps me driving to grow, and then you just end up coining those vision to ensure that people align, and it becomes a platform for you to start talking about values. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to go back and and talk to your workforce, your employees about
Thank
what
you
we
so
stand
much
for.
for giving me the answer which I wanted.
Thank you.
I
Of course,
wanted
know
to
you will.
understand
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who cannot accept the mental health.
Yeah.
And what are the challenges you faced for marketing and how did you overcome that?
Good, great question actually. You know, the bad news is Google does not allow us to market.
Yes,
Right?
I know that. That's why I
Yeah,
wanted to
so we are only left with 40% avenues to market our services. Okay, so this is what forced me. I mean, it was never a problem 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when we were thinking we're growing great. You know, it was easy because all you had to do is to focus on those little Google AdWords and those spaces. My Google ads per month spend has not increased in the last 2 years, not because I don't want to spend, because they're only making it more strict, because they're only bringing European laws into India for us. Okay, so how did I counter that? Is the only way that we could counter is to get into being content creators. So we identified faces within the organization, and then that's how we were able to get there. One biggest advantage we had as mental health care service providers is people trust Dr. Google more than their brothers and sisters in mental health, right? So we started to build a very strong web presence of ours. Today, while I'm talking to you guys, we get hits of anywhere about 100,000 to 125,000 a month, right? And our helplines are about 5,000 to 6,000 users reach our helpline every single month.
Sandesh, basically what you were telling just 2 minutes before, I want to counter that. We are into offline marketing in a very big presence.
I'm sorry. I didn't know.
No, what Sandesh meant was digital is good, often is better.
Yeah. I was trying to sell you something. I'm going to get there.
Actually, we work with a lot of hospitals, including Manipal Group.
I'm sure.
Thank you. And my question was actually in a different way. Actually, we are looking at many opportunities in our day-to-day businesses where we need not be part of it, but at the same time we can be get profit from the people who are in that business. For example, see, we may have opportunities in our own BSHIP circle where we may not be proficient or experienced in their businesses, but we can always be part of their success story. Do you think is it a very good way of identifying those kind of businesses and investing in them? We need not be part of the day-to-day working thing, but can we be a part of the success also?
Sir, if I were you, right, the first thing that I would do is, of course, the other person would certainly need money and resources, but I would ask myself, what more value can I bring in for him or her? Though I'm not actively involved on a day-to-day operations, if I can bring value, which is beyond, I would say, monetary, okay, is when I should be doing that. Otherwise, I should be a quote unquote a straightforward investor. Understanding what role one is going into these businesses becomes important, because I very well know that I am not made for being an investor. I've still not invested, okay? Though I've sat on a lot of startup valuation rounds and all of these, but I have never wanted to invest because I know I'm not an investor material. The last thing I want to do is to check on them, hey, listen, what are you doing? I'm a hands-on person.
Good evening. ಈ Cadabams ಅನ್ನೋದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುವಂತ ವಿಷಯನೇ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಎ ಓಪನ್ ಇದು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಒಬ್ರು ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗುವಂತ ಆನಂದ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗುವಂತ ಸ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದು ಇಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ಪ್ರೌಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈ ಸನ್. ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದು, ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಕ್ರೈಸಿಸ್ ಇಂದ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ನಾವು. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಆ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ನೀಡು ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋ ಒಂದು ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮುಂದೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದು. ನಮ್ಮ ಎರಡನೇ ಮಗ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎರಡನೇ ಸೊಸೆ ಇಬ್ರು ರೇಡಿಯಾಲಜಿಸ್ಟ್ಗಳಾಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ವಿತ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಪ್ರದೀಪ್ ಅವ್ರ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಇಂದ ಮತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಡಯಾಗ್ನೋಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಯೂನಿಟ್ಗಳು ಸಹ ನಮಗೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಸಹ ಇವರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಗೆ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಬಹಳ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆಸಿರ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಬಹಳ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಬೆಳೆಸಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬಹಳ ಕಷ್ಟ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಹಳ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆಸಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಯವ್ರು ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೂ ಹೊರಟೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದರಿಂದ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಅಂಡ್ ನಾವೇನ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳೋಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ಗೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಬಂದು ಸೇರುವಂತದ್ದು ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ. ಅಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಬರೇ ಕೆಲ್ಸದ ವಿಷಯ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ದುಡ್ಡಿನ ವಿಷಯ ಬಂದು ಸಾಕು ನಮ್ಗೆ. ಏನು ನಾವು ತಗೊಂಡಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನೀಡಿ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನಿಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಈ 2022 ಅಬ್ದುಲ್ ಕಲಾಂ ಅವ್ರು ಅವಾಗ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಂದು 15-20 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ರು. 2020 ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಸೊ 2020 to 2055 ವರ್ಗು ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ರ್ಯಾಪಿಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೊರಟೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಇದನ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಇದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ತರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಅಂತ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಗೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಬಹಳ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಅರ್ನ್ ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್. ಆದ್ರೆ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಸೊಸೆ ದೊಡ್ಡವಳು ಇವ್ನು ಹೆಂಡ್ತಿನೇ ಇದು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು 10-15 ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ವಿ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಅವರ್ ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವ್ರು ಮುಂದೆ ಬರುವಂತ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದು ಇವರು ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ದಿನ 1-2 ಫೋನ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಈ ಮಗು ಏನೋ ತರ ಸೂಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಡಿಪ್ರೆಷನ್ ಹೋಯ್ತು, ಹಿಂಗ್ ಹೋಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅವ್ರು ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಇವೊಂದು 2 ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಚಿಕ್ಕವಳಿದ್ರು ಅವ್ರು ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಈ ತರದ್ದು ಬರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ವಿಷಯ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಬಂತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಸಾಕು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ. ಬರೇ ದುಡ್ಡಿನ ವಿಷಯಕ್ಕೆ ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು ನನಗೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಬೆಳೀತಾ ಇದೆ ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟೇಜ್ 9% ಆಫ್ ದ ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಇನ್ನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬೆಳೆಸೋದು ಬೇಡ, ನಾವು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು.
Term rehabilitation plans.
To make the admission process here as smooth as possible. We understand that sometimes individuals may not be completely convinced about seeking help for their mental health disorders. That is the reason why we have multiple types of admissions, which also include voluntary admissions and assisted admissions after screening.
The residence community at Cadabams includes graduates, postgraduates, young and old individuals, people from across the country and the world. But there is more to living than just recovery. With celebrations for special occasions, festivals, birthdays, outing with families and fellow residents, and employment opportunities here. The stay here at Amita is aimed to being a holistic experience. The food here at Amita is an experience of its own. Varied cuisines, hygienic preparation, nutritious diet, the food here complements rigor recovery. With outdoor recreation, indoor games, multiple recreational activities, film clubs, literary clubs, These clubs keep a person engaged while they recover. Amita equips a person with social skills and coping mechanism so that they can take on the world out there. Cadabams Amita today is a realization of a dream to offer the best mental health care possible to recovering individuals and families in India. It is a living embodiment of the fact that we can beat mental illness with the right kind of support. No one understands mental health care quite like us.